Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, everybody. I am so
Hi.
excited. Hey, you have arrived into the Rhealism studio. I am so excited to welcome you to Purpose Conversations, Volume 5, 5 Alive. My name is Rhea Petrie, life and relationship coach, host, curator of conversations that matter to me, and hopefully they matter to you too. So I just want to start us off by saying how grateful I am that you're joining. This is a vision of mine, a dream that has come to life kind of unexpectedly. And one of the things that I hope to accomplish with all of the purpose conversations that we have is that you would leave inspired, that you would leave enlightened, that you would contribute and share. Because these things are real life experiences and just things that I think that we need to dive more into. And so tonight is so near and dear to my heart. The Rhealism brand is all about truth, real life, real love, real people, real relationships. And so that's what I hope to convey to you all. So get on in that chat. I want to see some answers in the chat in terms of what sisterhood means to you. Have you ever experienced a broken friendship? I thought it was particularly important to merge those two, and we'll get into it. Why? You'll see. So I want to move straight on into what the night will look like. So we're going to be here, do our intros, welcome my lovely, lovely panelists who are near and dear to my heart. And then we're going to go into our segments. So I want you to first, I want to say thank you to all of you that submitted questions ahead of time. I am going to facilitate this thing and make sure we answer each and every one, okay? Because I don't take it for granted. So we're going to go through. I'll infuse some of the questions that were submitted, so don't you worry. I promise you we will answer them. And then at the end, we might do a little live Q&A. So we'll see what happens. But let's get into the ladies that are on my panel this evening. And I'll say a little bit something about each of you, and then I'm going to pass it off to you to introduce yourself. So I'll start with Morgan, aka Reverend Rose. Love her. I'm excited to have you join this conversation. And I chose you for a particular reason. One, I know that you embody sisterhood. I have connected with you over all these years through our other sisty, and it just blesses my heart when I see other women that just embody and convey core values that I also do. So tell the people who you are, Morgan.
Well, thank you for that lovely introduction. I feel so grateful to be here and to be chosen to share my perspective on this topic. But my name is Morgan Chitty, aka Reverend Rose. I have a show called Champagne Ministry where we get lit, talk shit, and feel the spirit. Spiritual conversations over libations, that is. And the reason why I am called to this topic of sisterhood is that sisterhood, sisters are our chosen family. They are special souls that we have chosen to join us on this journey that we call life. And being a friend to someone is an amazing opportunity. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's a really special role that you get to play in somebody's life. So, and there's nothing like it. So that's why I'm here and that's who I am.
Oh, and you know why I love you? Because you kept me on task. Because what I should have said is I wanted each of my guests to say what their name is, what they do, and why they're drawn to this conversation. So thank you, Morgan. Good looking out. All right. We see each other. All right. So let's move to Fee. My next guest is Dr. Felicia Reels. We call her Fee. I'm grateful that my sister Ashanti has shared her with me. And I just love Fee. I loved her from the very first time we ever met. Very sweet, genuine, good, loyal friend. And I just want to thank you for contributing to the conversation, because I also know, like myself, you have some lifelong sister friends, and you don't always see that when you get in your 40s. So Fee, introduce yourself, what you do, and why you care about sisterhood, or why you wanted to join the combo.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me, Rhea. I feel very honored that I was chosen to be here. My name is Felicia Reels. I am a physical therapist by trade. Now I work in hospital business development. Sisterhood is extremely important to me because I have a younger sister, but we're 9 years apart. And so I kind of grew up as an only child. So my friends were really people that I leaned on. So I I cherish all of the friendships that I had. Like Rhea said, I've had a lot of lifelong friendships, and I cherish those a lot. So that's why it's important.
Yay! I love that.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you, Fee. All right. And now, she who embodies sisterhood on a day-to-day, I want to introduce my sister friend, Gabrielle, who has made it her life mission to promote sisterhood. And Gabby, I just love you. Much like I said earlier, this is just, I try to be inspired on who I would like to have on the panel. And immediately, the topic, when I think sisterhood, I think you. So I just want to say thank you for being a sister to me and just, being who you are and being so true to who you are. So welcome, and tell the folks who you are, what you do, and why this is important to you.
Thank you, Rhea. I just love you so much. You are like a real sister to me, for real. So I'm Gabrielle, and I'm the owner of the My Beauty Truck and Society in Los Angeles. I work with a lot of teenage girls. I do what we call frienderventions. So I do a lot of work with teenage girls. If they have issues at that age, it starts really young. So I bring them together and see how we can reconcile their friendships when they have certain issues that come up. So I just love sisterhood. I have two sisters of my own. Well, one's not here anymore. She passed. So that is like another reason why sisterhood is so important. I have my younger sister, and we've been through our ups and downs. And it's so beautiful when you have something, when you have a sisterhood and it's unconditional love, that's what it teaches you. It teaches you how to love no matter what, no matter how many mistakes are making or are made or things that happen. I could go on forever about that, but I just love sisterhood, and I feel like it's so valuable. And I like to see when women are able to make it through sisterhood, because we all have ups and downs. So I'll stop there. Otherwise, I'll keep going.
All right, we can keep this thing going because it's going to come up. So I will share. That is actually each of you. Thank you, by the way, for sharing those sentiments. I want to dive right into our first segment where we talk about experience. And so it's International Women's Month. I every month try to be intentional with the topics that I choose. And like I said in my intro, being in your 40s, you probably, many of us have experienced ups and downs, which I heard mentioned. We've experienced, some of us, lifelong friendships. Some people maybe not. But one thing that I know is that through the ups and downs, through the experience, I know at times people always say, oh, friends in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And how to decipher between which one that is like the golden question. So I want to ask each of you about your experience in terms of how you came to value sisterhood. So I know we sometimes will come across women that say like, oh, I wasn't really too keen. They'll say, I'm not too keen on the ladies. Or they might say like, oh, I don't trust women, or I'm a guy's kind of girl. You'll hear all of those things. So I'm just curious, was it always something? I can say for me, since being as young as I can remember, it was just a part of who I am. It was just something that I valued. I can hear a scenario and automatically take the think sisterhood, like, well, what did he do? Like if it was a situation. So what are some things that has caused this to be such a value to you? Was it innate? Was it through a particular friendship that you experienced that might have changed? Or, and I'll start, whoever feels free to jump in.
I can start.
Yes, please.
Since I just touched on it. So, like I said, my older sister passed, and I was like about 15 years old. I just want to tell this story because this is when I first really got sisterhood. And I remember feeling so alone, like I didn't really have, my mom had moved us to a new neighborhood. I didn't really have that many friends in my new school. And I was riding the bus home, and the bus was full, like fully packed. And this girl in the back was like, you, come here. And I was like, me? Like looking around, she's like, yeah, come here. And I'm walking past all the people on the bus. They're like, where are you going? And I went and had a seat next to the girl. She's like, hi, I'm Tisha. Nice to meet you. And we've been friends for like 25 years now. She's like my best friend. And I love her because it was right at that time when I really had a void in my life where I really could have used that sister. And she just stepped right in. And I was kind of rebellious and doing a lot of things that probably I wasn't supposed to be doing as a teenager. And, we would go to parties and she would be like, you're not going in that room. Or, nope, you sit right here on this couch. You can come and be a part. But, she always looked after me. And so that was something that was really like my first, obviously from my own real sisters, but as far as like a friendship goes, I just love that from the very first. Like she didn't know me, you know what I'm saying? To like spot me out and be like, you come have a seat. And I don't even know what it was, but since then we've just been best friends.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's definitely something. One thing that I heard you say is like she came to you, she initiated that to you. And I think it's interesting that you guys are still friends to this day. I want to hear if any of the other ladies want to chime in before I ask the question. But there was a viewer that asked a question about how to keep a friendship, like over the years, like what are the things that would allow friends to stay connected? Because seasons change, So I don't know if Morgan or Fee, did you want to touch on how sisterhood became so valuable?
Yeah. I had a similar experience. I was born in Chicago, but raised in LA since the age of 5. So we came to LA and I arrived at, my kindergarten class and obviously didn't know anyone. And a girl came up to me and similar to the "Hey you," I don't know what she said, but we became friends. Her name is Barry, and she is still my friend to this day. We are 4 years old. And we are friends since kindergarten. When I look around at my friend group, I've known them since kindergarten, 3rd and 4th grade, 9th grade. And I met 2 of my more recent friends recently as an adult, which is unusual for me. But I've had these friends, and they are family, and I've always valued them. But now that I've kind of grown up, I realize that friendships are, to me, in one way, almost more significant than family. And please don't be offended by this, but they're almost more significant because you choose them. You're not bonded by blood, you're bonded by love. You're not there because you have to be there, you're there because you want to be. And I think that's what's so beautiful about it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And, I'm grateful that you touched on that because it truly is a choice, like you said. And I love that both of your experiences were from so early on. I think that's awesome. Fee, what about you?
Yeah, actually, I have a similar experience as the other ladies. One of my closest friends to this day, we met when we were 3 years old. And we went to pre-kindergarten together, and we're in school together all the way through high school. We were, for the most part, like our early childhood years in elementary school, we were the only 2 Black kids in the class. So we really stuck together, and we were really a support for each other. And of course, we've had our ups and downs throughout our friendship. But it's so funny because we both grew up in Seattle. We're both now here in Los Angeles. And she's the godmother of my oldest son, So we have just learned to really appreciate each other's differences, because even though we've grown up together, we're so polar opposite in so many different things, like the types of music we like and the way we dress and where we go out. I'm definitely more of a homebody. So we have a lot of differences, but I think we appreciate our differences and we can still come together. And like Morgan was saying, we're almost like family now, and it's effortless. Like I don't think that anything could really tear up our friendship. We wouldn't do anything to each other to tear up our friendship. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. Yeah. So I just think we've learned to adapt to each other's changes throughout the years.
I love that you said that, because you're totally helping me segue into one of the questions that I had. And that is, you spoke about differences. You spoke about respecting each other's differences. I heard you both mention kind of these spans of over 20 plus years, and you just don't find that often. So what are some lessons, or what are some key things that you guys think would add? Because I even heard a few of you mention like, oh, we've gone through ups and downs, and trust me, challenges is the next segment. But what are some of those lessons that you think, because sisterhood is definitely a two-way street. Friendship is a two-way street. It's a reciprocal thing. And it depending on the ebbs and flows of life or the seasons, you may not have that to give, or maybe, the expectation might not be clear. We can go on and on. So what are some valuable lessons that you guys have found within yourself that have helped you to maintain these friendships over all these years? Because everybody doesn't know how. So what do you think? Yes, Bea.
Yeah, so I think the biggest lesson I think I've learned is just to meet people where they're at. and not to hold them to a certain expectation. So, you know, maybe 5 years ago, this person could have been for you in a certain kind of way, and don't expect that, you know, maybe in 2020, who knows what they're going through at that point. And so I think being able to give your friends grace and appreciating how they show up for you when they do, and not putting that expectation on them. So I think that's
I'm gonna have to go ahead and just add a touch on that, because that takes a lot of maturity. It takes a lot. It sounds, I mean, what I know to be true. Come on, Oprah. What I know to be true is that you can, knowing and understanding that the season has changed is not always apparent. And, you know, I have a question actually that I will infuse into this since we're talking about it, because one of the viewers, I'll ask, said, when you decide, I'll just start off, when you decide you no longer want to be friends with a person or as close friends with someone, what determines whether or not a conversation needs to happen? So I know Fee just mentioned you got to meet people where they are. And perhaps 5 years ago, you guys were like white on rice, road dogs, but the season might have changed. So what constitutes whether or not a conversation should happen? Or do you just automatically give grace and say, hey, they must be going through something, but that's still my girl. I love her the same. You know, no feelings, no offense. So that's a good question when you decide, because the way the person wrote it is saying when you decide. So that means that the person must have decided like, nah, I'm not rolling anymore. And that's happened to me. I've done it. So how do you guys feel about that? What constitutes whether a conversation should happen?
I mean, I feel like if you really did consider that person to be a friend, I feel like conversation is important, even if it's a difficult conversation. Those are the hardest ones to have, but I just feel like it saves so much wondering or questioning, like, should I call? I mean, everybody's not for everybody. People do have seasons where they outgrow certain friends, but I feel like the respect, if you ever were friends enough with them, you should have a certain level of respect to just be like, hey, you know what? And you don't make it personal. You don't put it on them. I've actually had a situation where it really wasn't a friend, but it was somebody I liked or whatever. But I'm just so busy right now that I just didn't have that little extra space I just didn't want to make that extra space, I should say. So it's like, not personal, nothing. I'm just doing my own personal work right now. I'll probably hit you on the flip side. Just so you know, if you see like answering calls or something, like it's not you, it's me kind of thing, you know?
So did you initiate that?
No, I responded to a message. So she's like, hey, I haven't heard from you. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, because sometimes you're not even thinking about it. Like, you're not even thinking about the other person. So it's not like, oh, I got to have a conversation. You're just like doing something else, or you're just prioritizing other places. And so, you know, it's like, oh, I haven't heard from you in a while. Oh, you know what, girl? I'm just like, right now, I'm just in a different season. I love you for sure. I love you. Just right now, I'm doing me kind of thing.
Yeah. Have any of you ladies experienced that as well? How did you handle it?
I agree with everything that's been said. I think that expectations ruin relationships of all kinds. Because if we're friends and I hold you to a certain expectation of you need to contact me this many times a week, or you have to be at my birthday party or I'm offended, or you have to watch my podcast and comment at least 5 times, or like you're not supporting me, or you know, whatever it is, people are not here to live up to your expectation. Who made you God? Who made you the king of this relationship? People are here to live up to themselves. Right. They're born here to live up, and they're on their journey to become the best version of themselves. And that does ebb and flow, and they go through things just like you do. But they're not here to live up to your definition of friendship. Friendship, in my opinion, is being there through the ebb and the flow. Right? Like you put it so beautifully that you go through seasons, and sometimes there are close seasons and sometimes in the distance. I think the point is to try not to judge each other and realize we're on the same team at the end of the day. And, you know, I've seen some social media memes and perspectives saying, oh, a real friend would check on you during COVID, or a real friend would do X, Y, Z. But a real friend would give you grace, as Gabrielle said. A real friend would give you space. A real friend is understanding and not judgmental and not pointing the finger, in my opinion. So yes, if you have a problem, if you're uncomfortable, if someone is actively doing something to you that's hurting you, you've got to have that conversation. But you also have to know the difference. It may not even be about you. Right. I know when I have experienced some low times in my life, I'm not, when they say misery loves company, I don't like company. I like to I don't want people to see me sad or see me upset. So I have to figure it out on my own in my shell. And then as I start to figure it out, then I'll get more comfortable, bringing you in. But if I'm in the depths of it, you might misread that as, oh, she's not checking on me. So I think it's important, releasing the expectation, realizing that people are on their own journey and you're just on it together, and letting the ebb and flow go. But you're on a boat together and you're riding up and down, and it, you just let it take you. You don't have to control it so much.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You guys are just making me, I do have a candle lit. We're going to keep the candle out the frame, but you're just making me want to just dive even deeper into that. So what I heard you guys talk about is giving grace, not holding those expectations so high, which I know can be tricky, because when you come to value someone and they, take up space in your heart, then I think it's a real game to not take it personally if all of a sudden they fall off the map, or if all of a sudden things change and only one person realizes it. And that was actually another question that came in, and it was, how do you handle the shift that might take place in a friendship when one or both parties, your values might not align? So how we talked about 5 years ago, maybe we used to enjoy doing the same things. And so now I know marriage sometimes changes people, should. Having children changes people, going through seasons of life, maybe down seasons changes people, or even those spiritual journeys. Sometimes it causes a clean sweep. So how do you handle that shift if you find what, we're not into the same things anymore? Do you all, and I do want to hear maybe from all of you on this one, whose responsibility? Is it your responsibility, she who has shifted? or is it, if you guys are tight like that anyway, is it on the person to say, hey, like Gabby said, her friend reached out yo, I haven't heard from you, what's up? Which I think is good to initiate. It takes courage, after you feel a little slighted. So what do you guys think about that? How do you handle shifts if you've experienced shifts in friendships?
Remember, that wasn't a friend though.
Oh, it was an acquaintance. It was like a fifth row. It was a back seat. Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't front row. I have to.
Friends is friends. Acquaintances is acquaintances. Different ones, I think.
So have you guys ever experienced a shift with a friend?
Yeah. I can speak on one of my best friends. She got married, and this was before I had gotten married. And so it was the first time that I actually had to really share my time with her. And so that was a shift for me. And then she had a son. And so that took even more time away from our friendship. So, I didn't give her a hard time for it, but it was definitely a shift that we both had to adjust to, because she was adjusting to motherhood and being a wife and this whole new world that she's going through. And, I'm used to being able to call her at any time that I wanted, any day that I wanted. And I obviously had to change that. I couldn't continue that. So we did have a conversation. Like I said, she's one of my best friends. So I felt comfortable enough to have that. But I also wanted to let her know that I was there and I supported her and I loved her and I understood that she was going through what she was going through, and kind of offered myself as kind of an outlet. I know you're overwhelmed. I know you have things that you're going through. If you need time, call me. But if you don't, and you just need your alone time, I'm okay with that too. But I just had to not be offended by, the not returned phone calls or the not returned texts, because I knew that her love for me was still there. Her priorities had just shifted. And of course, then I got married and I had kids, and I completely understood where she came from and what was going through. And now, of course, we're closer than ever. So that was probably a major shift. One thing that I noticed, he got married and had kids. I was like, wait a second, what, you know?
Yeah, things aren't quite the same anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love what you said about that. I wanted, before I take us off, did anybody else have anything they want to chime in about that?
Sure. I say go with the flow. Allow the shift. Let it happen. Change is a part of life.
Yeah.
You can't control it. You can't stop it. You have to go with it. You know, they say that, before, like, this is going to be a very weird example, but before a car crash, someone who's been drinking, they say, I don't know if it's actually true or not, but if they get in a car accident, the injuries are not as bad because they're loose, because their body kind of, I guess, moves around, but the person who tenses up and is trying to resist the force gets hurt, right? Why try to you cannot change what's happening in that person's life, so you flow with it. I don't have any kids. I'm 40 years old. Two of my best friends have kids, right? They can't do the things that they used to be able to do. So I hang out with my other friend that ain't got no kids. And then I become friends with her friends and we can go out. And then for my friends who have kids, we have to schedule it a little bit more and, have like, they can hang out as late. That's okay. After hours, I'm coming out of here. You know what I'm saying? So, it's simply part of life. And you've either got to adjust. I mean, you don't have to adjust. You can let go of the person, but if you really love them, you have to, like you said, you have to meet them where they are and accept their growth.
Ooh, you touching on some things, and since you mentioned shifting and changing, I would like to transition us into the challenges that we experience sometimes. I know that I'll just start with, I'll just say for me, what motivated this. Part of what motivated the conversation tonight is, as a 42-year-old, proud 42-year-old, I do have lifelong friends that I would like to be here for life. And I have had friends that I thought would be here for life that the season has changed. And I haven't noticed until recently, emotionally and even psychologically, spiritually, like when you allow people into your close space, it hurts. And so I had one of the viewers who submitted a question, and I said, oh, I'm going to ask this question because I'm still navigating through that. And I have my theories and I have my ways of coping or ways of being courageous and ways of trying to reconcile and hold on to things. But the question is, and I want to hear from each of you on it. The person said, I'm currently experiencing a broken friendship. They are just as hard as a breakup. Amen. That is so true. My question is, how do you move on from it when you both have mutual friends? And that is a really good question, because we're going to talk about mutual friends in a while. Friend group, I'm all about them. I got a few different ones. But how do you move on from it? I think one thing that's not often discussed is the fact that as women, we lead with our hearts. I mean, I don't box any man or woman into a box. But let me preface it by saying that we're very different. We have a range of emotional outputs, communication, personalities, all of that. But one thing I know just from the women in my life is, there's so much love, there's so much nurturing, there's so much growth and challenge that has come up. So to this person that asked the question, and even to me, it's like, how do you, now they phrase it as move on from it, meaning they probably have already let it go. Like we touched on Morgan, it's like they let it go. But how do you do that when there's still mutual friends there? Anybody jump? I'll start off with that. I think what's important is that the ladies, all of you have kind of touched on, I think, different aspects of maturity. And I think to be in a space where you are not easily offended, or you're not, taking things personally, and you're able to let the expectations loosen up, that takes some self-work. So I think what has helped me and what I'm practicing right now as I preach is, just being able to not allow it. I think it depends on the mutual friends that you have, which we can touch on, because if the mutual friends that are around you two love and respect both of you, and they don't perpetuate, sometimes seasons have ended, period. And you can't all be the get along gang for life. But if they're mutual friends that are positive and that are like down for the sisterhood, then I say just maintain your position and your friends, the other friends, and just not it like just stay in your lane, and not try to perpetuate any type of, take my side, take their side. I think it takes work and it takes maturity and it takes prayer, just to be able, I'm a praying woman, but I just believe you have to center yourself and just allow that shift to happen. But keep an open heart too. I think keep an open heart, because you just never know what life will bring. But the question was, how do you move on from it when you have mutual friends?
Rhea, that point that you write the gossip part. If you're going to maintain your lane and you guys are going to have mutual friends, I think it really should be. I'm not a big gossiper anyway. I think that is very harmful for friendships. But when you have, it shouldn't be like, well, if you're really ready to let that person go, sometimes you're still like, how's that person doing? And it can turn into a whole conversation about their business and everything. It's like, you got to let that person, like, don't perpetuate that and don't make the other friend get in the middle. So maybe that could be a good piece of advice. But being the person that I am and wanting to have friendships come back together, I'm like, is the friendship really broken? Is it really? I just feel like it just sounds so harsh. I mean, I understand, because everybody, we've had breakups. Even some of my great boyfriends, I'm still friends with. It doesn't have to be like this broken, ugly thing. I don't understand that people can't just part ways peacefully and just let it be understanding. And if you have the same friends here, then we had that situation where to a certain extent, and it was like a family kind of thing. And that broke. It was a hard break, but you and I were still friends, and you would go hang out with that person, and I really didn't care. I mean, I would ask like, oh, how's she doing? But it wasn't like oh, I don't want you hanging out with her because we're not, it wasn't like that. You're entitled to have your friends that you have, and so am I, right? I mean, that's what we're all about.
Yeah, but I think there's some mutual responsibility there, because with that situation, I also didn't make it a point. I feel like some people can like use friendship as like a flag to be like, hey, I'm going to hang out with such and such, and that the person is like at odds. Like, I definitely manage, not to say like if you said, oh, what are you about to do, and I make up a lie, I wouldn't go that far. But I also manage your, because to say that something felt like a relationship, it means that they really cared about the person. It wasn't just like an associate. So I am down for reconciliation, but I also know, as the in-between friend, I'm like, okay, I love this person. I'm not about to throw it in your face. Like, yeah, we still cool, right? And y'all not. Sorry, that's my personal responsibility, in the matter. But
and I always love you for that too. Yeah, I love you for that. And I'm that kind of person too. Like, there's people you just wind up separating from, and they're still. I do that all the time, actually. I love connecting my friends. And sometimes I grow, it's not a break, but it's like I'm not as close to that friend, and I see them hanging out all the time, and I'm happy. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad they're still connected. I mean, I just don't really see but I understand from the person who asked the question's perspective that it hurts. It does hurt.
It does. Ladies, you have any tips on how to move on from it if you're both in the same orbit?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to the expectations of, if you're the friend that is, or one of the people that's in the broken friendship, being okay if the mutual friends hang out with the other person, and not expecting them to like take your side, or, not do certain things with them, or expecting, them to tell you certain things, or when you hung out with them. So I think, going back to just not having that expectation, and just kind of just letting it go, letting the friendship go, and not expecting your mutual friends to do anything in return, because at the end of the day, they didn't have anything to do with why that friendship broke, I'm assuming. But so just kind of letting it go, and not putting any pressure on the other friends that are involved.
To that point, I'm curious to ask you guys, have you experienced a break in a friendship with someone that you cared about, not an associate, but an actual, like, I love this friend, we are friends? If you have experienced, tell us, what did you do? How did you handle the break? Like, was it a break that never reconciled, or is it a break that you all were able to come out stronger, Fee, like you said? after? Because this is what the people want to know.
Go ahead, girl.
Yeah, as I say, I can talk. I that same friend that I mentioned earlier that I've known since I was 3, we had a break. And one thing I can tell you is you cannot live with all of your friends. So we were roommates. And, just like you can't travel with all your friends, sometimes you just can't live with all your friends. And we lived together, and there were just some things that happened. We were both in the wrong, but it just put a complete sever in our relationship. And we didn't talk probably for a couple of years. And eventually she called me, she reached out, and we hashed it out. We had like a long lunch at a restaurant in Manhattan Beach, and really just decided to move forward, because knowing that we've been friends for so long, and our parents are friends, and our siblings are friends, like there was just so much invested in that friendship and relationship, that it was worth it. Whatever happened, which now looking back on it was very small, wasn't anything worth breaking up a friendship, but we were in our 20s, so we were able to move forward from that. And like I said, now she's the godmom to my oldest son. So, but yeah, moving past some of those things, I think are really, really hard. And I think honestly, when you have a friendship that's long lasting, like someone like her, it hurts even more. And I feel like it definitely hurt like a breakup. Like I felt like I was losing a sister. So yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad it got back together.
Me too.
Yay! Gabs, Morgan, have you ever experienced a break?
Morgan, you want to go? Did you want to?
I can go now or later. It's up to you.
It's up to you. Go ahead, Gab. You can start us off.
Okay. Well, this was a conversation. I mean, it was kind of the same thing, Felicia, where I had my best friend. We've been friends for like 20 years. Her son's my godson, and it was just, we've never had an issue, never had a fight. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things where something was said, and I heard it was basically something I told her in confidence. And it wound up getting told to somebody who had no business knowing my business and coming back to me. And it just hurt me, because trust is like a huge part of friendship. Like if you don't have trust, that's like, you break my trust, I don't know how to recover from that. So it was very painful. And I didn't really know. I didn't ghost her at all, but I was just trying to figure out, how do I handle this situation? And then also, like you said earlier, Morgan, like I'm 40, I don't have kids, and she's like married with kids and a career, and trying to figure out, okay, we're going to need a long conversation. Like you said, Felicia, Manhattan Beach or whatever, like a whole day and everything to hash this out. Like I didn't want to do it on the phone. So it was like a year or so. And it was painful, because the whole time we just never got around to talking, and birthdays would come up, or I would think about her and I would send her a text. I didn't want her to think I ghosted her, and I wasn't trying to break off the friendship. I was just like, we need to talk. We got to figure out a time when. And then we would try to make a time, and it didn't work. And it's just wound up stretching out the time so long, where it just became a big gap in the friendship. But I remember that pain so badly. I would just go on. I'm not on Facebook now, but I remember going on her Facebook page just to, she okay? Because when you really love somebody, like even if they do you wrong, or you feel like you got, somebody did you wrong, and you really love them, it's a forgiveness piece. I don't know. I just feel like, and we both love Jesus, and I feel like anytime when you have two people who really love God, and you are able to move past certain things, and I knew we could do it. It was just a matter of sitting down and having the difficult conversation. So we finally did. We made the time, and it was so hard. There was tears and hugs and crying. It was completely just a conversation that needed to be had. I'd already forgiven her. She was horrible. She felt horrible. She felt so sorry, because she is a good friend. She's always been like a stellar friend. It was just one of those things where she just, missed the mark, like we all do. I'm sure I've missed the mark at some points in friendship also. But one of the biggest lessons that it taught us was like how damaging gossip can be to friendships. Even something that you say, you just thinking you're saying something about somebody, but it's their personal business. So if you tell somebody's business, like if I'm telling you my business, That's confidential. That is for you, not for you to tell somebody else that has no business knowing my business. You know what I'm saying? So we learned that lesson good. And so now every time we are even tempted, and I notice now, sometimes conversations about somebody else will come up. I'm like, oh, okay, change the subject. I don't want to know about that person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to hear their business. You know, and so, but anyway, we just learned how to work through that. And now I feel like we're closer than ever. And like I said, her son is my godson. So, you know, I can't, it's family, you know, like her family, my family loves her family. It's just, there wasn't ever, I don't feel like there ever was going to be a breakup. But I remember that pain of being in a broken friendship and just, I don't think I've ever experienced that before. Like really broken, but wanting to reconcile. But I'm glad we did.
Yeah. It's tough and it is a pain. It is. I'm so glad you got. Thank you for sharing, all of you, for being honest, because it sucks and it's something that people don't talk about. And you might even feel some level of like, dang, why am I tripping so much? This isn't, you know, I think romantic relationships get all the glory when it comes to like the sting of a breakup. But I'm glad to hear that you all can share that. Yes, come on, Reverend Rose.
So speaking of. No,
my LaCroix.
That's terrible because that is not rose. That's peanut. I mean, yeah, that's Pinot Grigio. But anyway, I did have a break, and it was a breakup, like a permanent one. But I don't view that as a failure. I think that like we, for some reason, think that the end of things means that you failed. But if it wasn't right for you, if it wasn't healthy for you, then you won and they won because you released something that wasn't great from your life. But you have to do it with love and you have to root for them and like still be a good person and not wish any harm on anyone and hold that space for them of, oh, I hope you like shine, and I know you're going to, because that's why we were friends in the first place, because I see that potential in you. But I don't think that the end of things is necessarily bad. I think that it depends on the person and the situation, right? Like both Felicia and Gabrielle, you know, it doesn't to me even matter if it's a lifelong friend. To me, longevity is not success. There are couples who are married 50 years and hate each other. You know what I mean? Like we have these values that I don't know where they came from somewhere. Longevity is not success. It's just long. Okay? Maybe you know for you to move on, or the self-love to know I deserve better. So that just means, I mean, of course, I reference that I've known my friends since kindergarten, so it means something. But it's not more important than your health and your happiness and your values. Then, you know, we get to choose who's in our life, and we better make some damn good choices because there's a lot of people, but we have to love ourselves first. And part of self-love is choosing and selecting and curating the experiences and the people that are good for you and healthy for you. So if something no longer serves you, you need to know it's okay to let it go with love and forgiveness. It's okay. Yeah. But if you also have that feeling that it's not done yet, or this is unresolved, then you should pursue that too. And look what can happen. You could be the godmother or vice versa. You know what I mean? And what a beautiful thing that is to overcome that. So all I'm saying is I had a permanent breakup and it's okay. And it was okay. And that was a success and a win for me as a woman, selecting and choosing what is best for me in my life. And I wish her the best, and she already got the best and she's doing the best. And it's like, and so do I. And it's beautiful. You know what I mean? Now, the other question was, when you have mutual friends, that's hard. If you're part of the same friend group, that's hard. It is. Because you're used to all texting together or going out. That's really, really challenging. So what you have to do is you first have to decide, what am I okay with? And you have to know your boundaries. You can't expect your other friends to stop being friends with that person. So you have to think, okay, am I okay being cordial? Am I okay at large birthdays, for example? Am I not okay with small lunches? Do I not want to be on the text thread? Do we need to start a separate text thread? And those are things that you have to think about. That's the logistics of it. And you have to set your boundaries and talk to each friend in the friend group and help them understand, and they'll work with you, you know, but that is tough. That is correct.
Ooh, Morgan, you didn't touch on a whole bunch of things because you don't want to get that you have been removed from the chat message. You know the phone don't lie. The phone will tell you when you got removed from that friend group. And see, that take a lot of courage. So people just go ahead and slide on a separate. They start that separate chat where 5 now became 4. But that is tough. I'm so glad that you said that because one, this is why I love the diversity of all of you guys, because the truth is, like you said, what I heard you say is that you were okay with the break. And I think people demonize people all the time, or if you have been friends for so long and something shifts, it's like something has to be wrong, or clearly you have to work things out. Sometimes people just change and seasons change. And I love that you spoke to keeping your heart open and wishing the person well, because I think that's where the possibility for reconciliation, if it's meant to be, will happen. And then I think it's a very mature way to still allow your peripheral friends to do them, and y'all build your friendship. If you make the choice and it sounds like you were like free as a bird, I let it go, I think that says something, because I think more of us need to be honest about that. And I know I struggle with that, especially when you have been let go of, or it's a real ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Or similarly, you find yourself just not meshing. And this is going into one of the questions that one of the viewers asked, and it was, is it possible to start over with a friend that wronged you without any acknowledgement or wrongdoing or accountability? So it's like, if you experience the wrongdoing, or if you have done the wrongdoing, it's like, is it possible to start over? I think it's possible, yes. But depending on the type of friend that you are and how much you value communication, I heard Grace mentioned earlier. So are you guys the type of friends that if someone, I think wrongdoing, there's a spectrum of that. So not responding to somebody's text could be doing somebody wrong. Hearing that your friends went to lunch and you didn't get the invite, that could be doing wrong. Planning a trip. Everybody can't travel. Like Fee said earlier, everybody don't travel together well or live together well. So I think people's renditions of what wrongdoing looks like vary. But what do you guys think? Is it possible to start over without any type of acknowledgement of wrongdoing?
No.
Reset.
Yes, there's always a possibility of starting over and beginning again, of course. But if you can't acknowledge what you did, and you can't be self-reflective and self-aware enough, then you're likely to probably repeat it again. And you're not the type of person that I want to be around if you can't acknowledge what you did. And that includes me. I need to look at myself and acknowledge, how did I contribute to the culture of this relationship? Is there anything I did? So I think, when you point the finger at somebody else, you should point it back at yourself and ask yourself that same question. Is there a way that I can be accountable? Is there, because usually it takes two to tango, right? But yeah, I absolutely think you can always start again, but not if you cannot acknowledge any wrongdoing. Absolutely not.
Well, Morgan, I think the interesting thing is you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes people can do something wrong and not know it. They could just be, like the stresses of life get to them, or maybe they just forgot. I forgot one of my friend's birthday, and that birthdays mean a lot to me. And baby, that thing humbled me for the rest of my life. Now I'm like, oh, well, you could text me anytime between the 25th and the 30th, and we still gonna be tight. But when I was like, Lord, what in the world? But my point was, it's like, if the person doesn't know that they wronged you, it is up to you. If you're the one feeling a little like side eye or funny style, I think it takes courage to be like, you know what, you're acting real normal, and I just have to say, like, something should, like, you're acting normal, and then you hang up. I just think there is some accountability and responsibility, even on the person that's wrong, because someone really might not know. They just might not know. Did I cut somebody off? Are you guys gonna say anything? Okay, because there was go ahead, Fee.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, sometimes I feel like it depends on the situation. Like you said, there's levels to wrongdoing. And I feel like there's been situations where I may have handled a situation differently than maybe a friend did with me. But it also, I think what it changes for me is it just kind of changes how I move with that person in the future. So I might not necessarily feel like I need to have a sit down conversation with you, but if this situation were to arise again, then I know that this might be the outcome. And so that's kind of how I've looked at some situations.
So you just kind of take a mental note, like,
yeah, just take a mental note, like, okay, now I know.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I want to see some comments. I've been trying to be focused on my panel, but yes, guys, keep making them comments because I want to start. We're going to get into that segment before we get out of here because I want to make sure that we hear from you guys as well. Gabs, were you going to say anything? Because let me throw this question at you because I know you would be good to answer this. How many times should one party initiate a reconciliation before giving up on the friendship? So let's say things got weird, or perhaps there was a break, or maybe someone wronged someone and they don't know. How many times do you think you should approach that and try to reconcile before you're just like, I let it go, relax, relate, release? What do you guys think?
I don't really know like times and stuff. I mean, like I told you with my friend that I had the issue with, I mean, it was a lot of like, hey, so let's talk. So what about your schedule? And then, there was time that went by that we weren't able to connect. And then I just reached out again, or she would reach out again. And I don't think we counted, how many times. It wasn't like that.
Yay. I got a, this is good, ladies. They liking it. All right, come on and let us know you're liking it. What do you guys think? I agree. I don't know if it's about the number of times. I do think that innately, like you just kind of know. I do think it's worth it, especially if the friendship means something to you, but I wouldn't say like, 3 times and that's it. Because initiating a reconciliation, it does take some courage, especially if someone was the one that, fell off or wronged you. What were you guys going to say? I thought I heard somebody saying something. Oh, okay.
I mean, it just depends. It's not, a formula, an equation, and all that. But I would just go based off of the feeling, the vibe, the energy, And sometimes if you are the person who, hurt someone, it might you might have to try multiple times because they may not be ready and so.
Oh, well, I'll just put a plug out there. If anybody that should be watching this is experiencing this right now, keep your heart open. Well, 3 strikes, you're out. I mean, 3 strikes is still a good amount of strikes. At least it's not 1 strike. Yeah, see, 1, 2 times, but see, this is good. I think especially in life, depending on what you have going on. Thank you guys for these comments because we're all different. And guess what? Sometimes when you're angry and offended, you could say 1 strike and you're out, but that doesn't mean that it's true. It just depends on where you are. Let's see. Could you go into detail about why? Come on. Why do we have these breaks? Some wrongs may be forgiven. Let's talk about it. Okay. Let's talk about it. What are some reasons why you have these breaks, ladies? Who wants to share? I could share a few. One, I could tell you a man was involved. So, there was a situation where guy, that's all I'm going to say. A man was involved. I'm just kidding. I think in other cases,
slept with the man. Go ahead, be specific.
Well, you know what? Here's the truth, and this is a different purpose conversation. I'm a little liberal-minded when it comes to that, so I feel like, and I don't want to take us off topic, but I feel like sometimes people lay claim on people that maybe you had something within the past. I don't have that. I'm down for the sisterhood, so I do know it's not traditional to be okay with, I messed with him and this person. I have a different mindset about that. But I know that where, a man comes involved. Now in that situation, I was wrong. I was wrong because I was the second one in the equation. Okay. And I'll admit that. But when you're young and dumb, you don't know what you're doing. But the beauty is even after years of a break, 2-3 years of a break, that thing came right on back together and it's still rolling to this day. And you know why? I've had to humble myself several times, apologize, and just say that, like Ayanna said, call a thing a thing. You call that thing a thing. And if the person's heart is open and if the friendship has substance to begin with, then I think you can get out of this. So to the viewer who asked, like, what are some of those things that cause breaks? Yes, a man was involved. Maybe anybody else want to chime before I start running my list?
Run it.
Yeah, I think one of the friendships that I had that had a big break, it was I mean, this was like back in my college days, but basically just lies were told about me. And things that were so far from the truth, and it was, detrimental to just my character and against everything I stood for. And so for that, that was something that I couldn't move past.
I'm like that too. Lies are a big
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Race over a liar is a tough one for me. Gabby, Morgan, what about you guys? What are some things that have caused breaks?
Well, for me, when I was young, it was gossip. But from when I was young, it was being around people who did drugs, who were starting to do like hard drugs, not weed, but like real drugs. I would see it, and I was like, I love you so much, but we are now different. Like, I don't even want to be your friend. I can't be around that kind of environment because you're putting me in situations now, in compromising situations. So that was when I was younger. Yeah, that lifestyle, hardcore lifestyle changes where you're just like, you just can't be friends.
Yeah. I hope the viewer is getting something from some of these answers, but lifestyle I heard mentioned. I know lack of reciprocity. That's something that has come up. And that was actually a viewer question. And that is, I'll tie it to this person's question, but I can definitely say it's how do you navigate when what you're giving is not reciprocated? So if you find you're always the one to call, you're always the one to go to the person's house, you're always the one to check. After a certain point in life, depending on what the person goes through, you could be like, you know what? If I don't send this message, they really would never reach out. That could cause a break.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Have you guys any other things you could think about that cause breaks?
Well, I think you guys have covered all of them for me. And Rhea, I love what you said and just how you were vulnerable and shared, because I think that takes so much growth and strength. But yeah, you guys covered the ones for me, but reciprocity is interesting because it's a fine line, because relationships, you don't want to be the only one reaching out all the time, but at the same time, relationships are not about what you're getting. They're supposed to be about what you're giving. And you're not supposed to be counting the tit for tat of I texted you 5 times and you didn't only text me 1 time. Like, you know what I mean? And or you can do that, but you're gonna be caught up in that rather than the spirit of the friendship, which is love, right? And so if you know the person loves you, they may not. We talked about the different seasons and the ebbs and the flows and all that. And I just feel like, relationships and sisterhood and love is not a trade. It's not a trade. I text you, you text me. I do this, I show up here, you do. That's not what it's about. You're caught up in the logistics and the actions of it, not the energy of it and the presence of it. I can go for months without talking to my friend, and she has to reach out to me after each series of months. She always reaches out to me. But when she does, I give her love back. And we get together and we have a great time, right? So if I were to be judged by some of those standards, maybe I would be failing, but I'm not, you know what I mean? Because I'm me and I am there for her, but in my way. So I think the reciprocity is a real interesting thing. You have to be careful about that, because love and a relationship is not a transaction. A transaction is I give you $3, you give me that big bag of giant Skittles, right? You can have transactions all day long, but if you're caught up in the transaction of it, I think your priority is in the wrong place.
Yeah, I appreciate that you shared that, because I know that, my sister, I always use my sister and I as an example. I am a definite diehard. I got a lot of close friends. My sister has a little smaller amount, but her personality is just purely different from mine. So she won't think to remember. I mean, she might remember someone has a job interview tomorrow at 10, but it's just not in her personality. And I would never expect her to be like, I mean, sometimes I think I've had an effect on her, but I like what you said about being able to recognize that certain things, if my way of showing you love is just marking all those important things, it doesn't mean that you don't love me. And it doesn't mean that you're still not a good friend. You're just different. And what you do is different, like how you express that is different. So I'm just so grateful that you touched on that, because I think it's important, and I hope everybody listening that might be, feeling like, oh man, this is not reciprocal, or this person doesn't. Like, some people got way more time on their hands in the course of their day, so they could text, call, text, check, and you might have 3 children running around the house. I want to give props to my mom friends who, now that I'm up close and seeing what it's like, I'm like, man, the fact that you had a whole hour conversation with me, we good for 6 months now. You ain't even got to respond. So yeah, I'm grateful that, Morgan, that you said that, because it's about embracing the personality of your friend and not holding them to your same way, whatever your way is. Like love languages in a relationship.
Literally. Come on, coach.
Come on. All right. So there's another question, and I'm going to get to it, and then we're going to get back. So I thank you all for staying with us. We have a few more questions, and then we're going to round this out with some advice and tips, because I know that there's some that we have on our hearts. This is a good one, because we talked about friend groups. How do you navigate in friendship groups where you're not as close to some as others without hurting people's feelings? So we all have talked about maybe having some friend groups, or like, let's say it's a group of 5 or a group of 3 or whatever. How do you navigate if you're just not as close to everybody without hurting people's feelings? Which is also a whole nother question, because some people are more sensitive than others. So anything can hurt somebody's feelings. But how do you guys navigate that? And that could be a layered question. I could start off, I guess, in a way by saying I don't expect everybody to be equally as close. And I think I have worked on my own maturity enough to know that in life, certain personality types gravitate. Some of us might be into the same show, or maybe certain people have, just similar interests that naturally, like if you put kids on a playground, certain kids gravitate to other kids. So I try not to personalize it if I'm noticing like, oh, these two, they always go wherever. But now it's taken some time to get there. But I think the part about without hurting people's feelings is I think you have to own where you stand, because I also don't think it's the person's responsibility to like put a Band-Aid on, like I don't, it's a layered answer for me. I feel like everyone should be able to own whoever you are close to, amen. But if it's a mutual love within the group, I think you just let it be what it is. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, I don't think it's someone's job to be like, if you're just not close to that person, then it's kind of inauthentic at that point. If you're trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, no, I agree like 100% with you, Rhea, that I just think when you're in a friend group that you just have to respect that everybody is going to be different, and that everyone is going to gravitate towards who, they may have more in common with, and that's okay. And I don't feel like it's the responsibility, of you to not hurt the other people's feelings. But, if you feel pulled in a certain way to, just make sure that people are feeling okay, then, you can make a little bit of an effort to start, small talk or conversation, or try to get to know, maybe, find what common grounds you guys have. But I don't think it's something that you should like stress yourself about, or, I just feel like there's so many other things in the world to stress about that, you don't want to have to worry about having to make everyone around you feel comfortable.
Yeah. Love that you said that. Reverend Rose, were you going to add something? I'm trying to stay attuned to each of you.
You are not responsible for other people's feelings. That doesn't mean you be a cold heifer, you know what I'm saying? But it means that you are, like you said, Rhea, in mature relationships, we know that they're all different. Some are stronger than others.
Yeah.
And, yes, you be sensitive and you be kind, but you can't hurt somebody else's feelings with it. So I don't know about that.
You can't be everybody to everybody. It's impossible.
Come on, tweetable moments. You can't be everybody to everybody. We are getting the, come on, ladies. All right. I'm so happy our audience is still with us. We got 3 more questions and then we're going to give our parting words. But this one, I absolutely want to hear from each one of you because I have a very strong opinion about it. This question says, in a friend group, if there is contention between 2 friends, do you mind your own business or encourage reconciliation between the friends?
I encourage reconciliation.
Come on, Gabby. I was like, you start us up. You encourage reconciliation because you talked about earlier. I was the middle friend. Yeah, friend intervention.
I just love that, and I feel like if it's petty, you can work through it. If it's something big, then you know when it's time to let go. But I mean, I have my retreat, and I do women's retreats, and I've had a couple of women that came through on vacation, and had a little. Sometimes those moments spark something, and you can't get away. You're in a situation where you can't escape it, and a conversation needs to be had. And what do I look like being like, oh no, girl, well, you should do this. You should, like, or just completely staying out of it because that's awkward too, because y'all in my house, or like you guys are like in my space. So like, what else is to just be awkward with you? And like, hey, look, stuff is going on. Let's talk about it. You guys can talk about it. I don't even have to be in the middle of it, but come on, let's work it out. Work it out. Sometimes it takes time, but I don't know. I just feel like friendships, there's always, maybe not always a way, but when you really love somebody, like I said before, you can work it out.
So you're team reconciliation. All right.
I'm team reconciliation, but I also would not push it, past a certain point. So if I've tried once and it didn't go so smoothly, I will lay back and mind my business. So I'm team reconciliation for the one time and then go back to being a mutual party.
So you're a one-time try and you done.
Yeah.
All right. Morg, what do you think?
I'm in between. I'm a Libra, so I'm like balanced and can't decide. I'm in between. If you can't do it, you need to call Gabrielle and go to one of her. Okay, not everybody has the tools and the vocabulary to be able to work out. Because if you're in the middle and you're talking to one friend trying to help them understand the other friend, they might be like, so you on the other friend's side and all that. So it could be kind of sticky. Yeah. So I'm on both. If you can, and if you feel you have the tools and you feel like you can do it, you should do it.
Yeah.
Other side, I say, don't get in grown folks' business. So it depends. You have to take it based on the situation, the severity, and what you're able to offer and to really bring.
Ooh, I love it. See, we fall on all ends of the spectrum because I too am a reconciler. I definitely believe it is if I'm friends with both parties, it is impossible for me to act like it doesn't exist or to act like it doesn't affect me because these are people that I love. Now, and that is my personality too. As you see, we have in purpose conversations. So I put some weight to that. That's just me, my unique value. However, like you said, I also respect, if you love and respect your friend, and let's say one person says, hey, this is where I stand, and the other person says, this is where I stand, I just try to make it my business to love and embrace and continue to nurture both. But I'm always, in my heart, be like, Lord, work it out. That's just me. That is my heart, and I'm gonna always be that way because I do value Sisterhood. And again, I think if the season has changed, you can still show love and it doesn't have to look like it used to look, like it doesn't have to be the group text is back in effect. But I do think there should always be that, like Morgan, when you spoke about the break that never reconciled, I love that you touched on that. Just keeping an open heart, wishing the person well, just putting good energy out towards them, as opposed to when you hold on and you're hardened and, you could say the person's name and you still like there's something to that. And I think it's hard to heal with that. So I just encourage, that's my perspective. I'm always going to pray like that an open door, an open heart comes in a friend group. Hey, man.
I have one, Rhea. There is one person. I don't really have a lot of people that I just don't like, but there is one situation that every time I hear that name, it would make me be like, ugh, don't even. I was getting, and this was not even that long ago. This was like a couple weeks ago. I was getting ready to do communion. I was getting ready to do communion, and you know how they say, if you have something against somebody, don't take communion. You know how they say that? And I was like, oh, I'm really convicted in my heart because really don't like this person. And I thought I had let it go. And I had to go home and really have a talk to Jesus moment. And it was in that, because I was like, I don't like that. I don't like having that feeling about somebody else where I'm just like, ooh, if I heard the name, like I don't really think about that person, but the name popped up and it made me feel kind of, like, But what I did was I went into my prayer time and God was like, just what are all the things that you have to be grateful for? Like, think about the good things and then release that person. And I went through a little process and I let that person go. And I felt so much better afterwards. It was almost like I had to do it just within myself. Like, you know what? I don't ever want to, I don't ever want to be friends with that person again. I really don't. If I see that person, I'm probably just going to keep walking. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I don't have that same feeling. You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad, because the Bible talks about if you have an ought towards someone, you go to them. And I was going to say, oh, did you call them up? Like, look at you before you.
I didn't even. That's what I thought about too. I was like, I don't even feel the need to like. I don't want to call. I don't want that. No.
Yeah. Well, what I like that you touched on, and I think all of you have spoken about it. It's like you dealt with you. So how you processed it, that energy and that toxic, that stank or whatever you want to call it, you worked on you. And that's, I think, the best jewel in this is that it's okay to see somebody and not have to roll your eyes at them, but no, you don't have to go give them a hug and say hi. I don't think that's rude. If you guys just, the break is the break, it doesn't have to be a thing. But I like that you said that. You're like, you know what, I got to let this go, because whatever you're holding, that space that you're holding for them, it's affecting you and it's affecting me. I just think that, I like that you touched on that. Yeah, amen. Let's get to our last question. And this is a good segue because our third segment, and guys in the chat, please, if you have any last little questions you want to throw out there, comments, please do. But I wanted us to give some advice to talk about what good communication tips we can share to foster sisterhood or to foster in those broken friendships if they are meant to reconcile. This person asked, how do you get to know and form meaningful bonds with new people that you don't have any history with? So how do you do that? Like, what are some ways? We talk about childhood friends or mutual friends based on friend groups, but how do you form meaningful bonds? How do you do that? Oh, I think I missed. Okay, I have one more question. Actually, I missed one. Sorry, 5 more minutes.
Because I don't ever want this to end. This is so fun.
I know, this is so good. Time has gone by so fast.
I know. I try to, I'm just this honey. We could stay longer, but YouTube will allow us to, apparently. No, but let's talk about. So actually, we have 2 more because I see another one someone sent, and I don't want to miss it. But like, what are some ways? I know, Morgan, you spoke to, and I also can attest to this. You have your childhood friends, but you can also meet people. Like, I just recently met Fee a few years ago.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. I'm like, it's not about the time, because sometimes, I don't know, I'm deep, so I always like to make things spooky deep. But sometimes your hearts just connect, or you just be like, dang, like the nature of a person, like you just might like them. Like a good natured person likes good natured persons. So how do you, I think, what are some ways to form meaningful bonds? Like, you don't have to have endless amounts of history, but I know some people struggle with how to connect in relationships and in friendships. So I think my one thing is just being intentional. So like, if I want to spend time or say, I'm like, hey girl, like, I don't know. I'm forthright with like, oh, you want to do this? Or I think when I communicate, like, I love you, girl. I really like, your personality, or I've shared that with somebody today. I said, I like your energy, and I like when I'm around you and we have great conversations. So I think for me, I'm just a forthright communicator, even at 42. And I don't think it's easy. I don't feel ashamed. I'm free with that. If I feel it, that is. So what are some ways that you guys form meaningful bonds with other women? Like when you have a full career, kids, spouse, you're busy, you have a business, life gets in the way.
that much effort. For me, it doesn't take that much effort. You know, if I'm thinking about somebody, I'll just send a text or, you know, like just our little prayer. And I really feel like sometimes I'll wake up, like this happens all the time. I'll wake up with somebody on my heart. And even if it's somebody I haven't talked to in a long time, and I'll just send them a text, hey girl, just thinking about you. Yeah, just love check.
Love check, Max.
Sharing love. But I do have it being in Puerto Vallarta, because that's where I spend most of my time. There's not that many Black people, you know. So I recently met a friend in the grocery store, and I saw, you know, she's a Black girl, and I was like, hey, what are you doing out here? Do you live here? Are you vacationing? She was at the grocery store, so I'm thinking she lives there. She's like, yeah, I just moved here. And then from that one conversation with her, I wound up meeting a whole tribe of other beautiful Black women that were in Puerto Vallarta that I didn't even know were there. So then we put together like dinner, and everybody's been able to connect. And it brings me back to the other point about some people, how they connected more. Some people connected more than others, you know, in the group, and some people really, you know, and that's just how it is. Like people just vibe in different ways. But anyway, that's how. And being older and having a new friend, you know, if you want to meet somebody, sometimes it's just like, hey girl, I like your jeans, or your hair is cute. And sometimes I could just spark a conversation, and you could just be like, it could just happen that way. But I know some people are shy also, and maybe don't want to step out of their comfort zone. So it's different. I feel like I treat my friends in the way that I want to be treated. And I really appreciate getting texts that are just like, hey girl, just thinking about you. I like that. And I feel like I give that and I receive it back. So I think it's the energy that you put out, you kind of get back.
Oh, I love that. That's such a good tip. And it's good to feel that for the friends. I know lately in this season, I've been just so slammed. So it's refreshing. It kind of kicks me back into gear. Like my friend just did a love check this morning, or my other friend was like, hey, you want to go hiking? And I'm like, you know what? Thank you. Like, thank you, Lord, for not holding it against me. Because I'm usually a good initiator. But this season, for whatever reason, with me trying to build this and me working, it's just, it's just harder. So I love that. It warms my heart. It reminds me like, thank you, friend. You checked in, you know, and I didn't have to. So ladies, Morgan Fee, and then we'll get to our last. Is there any tips?
I would just say, and I can even just speak on this specifically with you, Rhea, like I feel like we just connected instantly. And I mean, anyone that knows you knows that your energy is just infectious, and you're just a light and just very loving. And I think knowing that and feeling that energy and that positivity, being able to just kind of trust your gut and trust your inner, you know, your inner self, and being vulnerable. So being able to be vulnerable with those new friendships, and the time that you do get to spend with them, because it may not be as often, you know, because of life and work and kids and marriage and whatever business, that you really are intentional about the time that you do spend with them, or you're intentional about the, you know, the conversations, or, you know, I love the love checks, like sending the text messages, but, you know, just trying to show and be your true self, and just being vulnerable, I think is helpful. Aww. Which is a challenge. I know. Yeah.
It's a challenge. It is, Vona. It sure is. It's hard when you've been hurt. You're absolutely right, Ronnie. And that's why what I hope to cultivate in these conversations is, if you have been hurt, is not to allow it to change the course of your future, to be able to, you know, you see there's communities of positivity and love and grace. And that's what I want to represent at all costs. Because, baby, there's some people that might argue with you about this energy. Sometimes it could, you know, I have bad days, you know. But one thing,
we all have our bad days. Yeah, we all have our bad days.
We do. But I think what you put out is definitely what you attract. So if you put out there, hey, you know what? I'm at an age where I'd like to build some stronger bonds. Like, I feel like it's okay to put that intention out. And then to be open. I love, Gabby, that you proactively went up to that girl. Like, people don't always do that. And that's what I think is what allows people to receive what their hearts desire, is when you take a step and not just expect people to do things and show up for you, but take a step. All right. We have one other question, because I said in the beginning we were going to get to everybody's, and I think this one is good, and we can tie in some final thoughts. The question is, how do you show up for your friends without enabling them? So if you have friends that are going through a season, I know I had a season of silence after a breakup. That sting just didn't go away, and I just wasn't quite myself. And I could say, I'll start it off. What I appreciate in my friends, when you can be honest and in love, say, hey, you know what, girlfriend, you're just not like, not get over it, because we all have different processing time, but to be able to be like, you're not showing up as yourself, like something is off, like being able to be honest, I think has helped for me. So showing up means communicating, being honest, and letting the sister know. And I practice what I preach. So that's something that I feel strongly about, is not the enabling part is just high five, and no matter what the person does, says, that's not to me a mark of a real strong bond. So as we round this off, how do you show up without enabling your friends? What does that look like for you, ladies? Ooh, this is a good one. We got.
I mean, I guess maybe at times playing, depending on what the situation is being devil's advocate, So just trying to show, maybe another perspective.
I love that.
Trying to just, get them to see maybe if another person is involved, like how that other person could be feeling or what they're going through. So, yeah, I guess just playing devil's advocate, just trying to get them to see another perspective.
I love that. I love that. That's
enabling. When you talk about enabling, like, I'm trying to understand that. Like, so you said, like, no matter what they do, give them a high five kind of thing. I mean, like, I think we talked about this earlier with like, if someone's gossiping or whatever, like, oh, girl, now you don't need to be, like, that kind of thing, where you just call them on their stuff. And you just say, is that what you're talking about, enabling? I feel like that's just a natural part of the relationship. Like, we don't let each other, like, I feel like you call me on my stuff, Rhea. Like, if I'm having a pity party, you'll be like, girl, now you need to get up, go take a hike, go take a walk, drink you some water, go to the gym, get up out that bed, get together. Like, yeah, so I appreciate that, but I don't know. I feel like that's just a natural part of friendship.
Well, not always. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you can enabling someone is allowing them to perpetually do something that may or may not be good for them, or I mean, that's a touchy one, because it's not our place to judge what's good, but just not speaking the truth or not challenging, like Fee said, like helping our friends to see another perspective. We did get a good question, and I'm gonna have to just go ahead and ask it, because YouTube ain't gonna cut us off. But this question was interesting. It says, I'd love to hear y'all speak on changes when one friend's life takes off financially or career-wise, and the other's hasn't yet. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to take off. I'm gonna get my friends, but like, ooh, when one friend's life is I wonder what are we talking about, Oprah and Gail? Are they a full-on celebrity now? I'm just kidding. But interesting question. I think for some reason I'm like, wow, this is the thing. Like, I think I try to be like, come as you are. Money to me, I don't look to associate financial status or career status with friendships is hard for me, but I love that. That's why I'm grateful for the audience to ask questions, because I would hope that it shouldn't affect. I don't know. I guess you did. I would say that if someone starts acting brand new, and you know what, let me not lie, because that actually happened to me. And what I know to be true is that whatever motivates a friend. So let's say a friend got a new job and it's very ritzy and they get invited to all these things. Thankfully, that doesn't move me. But if it moves the friend and now they no longer got time for you, I mean, to me, I think the light bulb has come on, and now you get to see, kind of what's at the root of that friend. I don't think I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that any amount of money should dictate who you hang with. But I think it kind of maybe illuminates that it might not have had that foundation that you might have thought, unless the career is like, I don't know, they're working in the ER. And I mean, time alone changes it. But the way the question reads, it seems like if someone took off and someone didn't.
Because you probably can't do the same things, like if they're taking off and going jetting to Paris and all over the country, and you want to go and you just aren't able, like sometimes they're expectation of certain friends. Like once you get a certain money, we just saw that with, what's her name that made a donation to her friends GoFundMe. I forget who it was, but it was like one of those celebrities, and she has a lot of money, and she made a donation, but it wasn't enough. You know what I'm saying? And then you sit at dinner or whatever, and you think, oh, well, that person has all the money. They should work. I don't personally think that, but maybe that's what that person is asking. Whoever asked the question, is there an expectation of a friend who has money now to like cover certain things, or maybe invite you if they know that you can't afford it and they don't want to leave you out? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
I don't like
real
going shopping with rich friends. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Like if they be like, let's go to Nordstrom, I'll be like, I think I'll set this one out.
You mean Nordstrom Rack? Are you?
Nordstrom, but like the section, and I'm like, I can't afford all those things,
But I think I wouldn't mind going shopping with my rich friend, because I'm like, hey, I mean, I could aspire to be able to just swipe the card like that. So that's why I'm like, I think
it all depends.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was gonna say, I think it all depends on, I guess, your friendship with that person. And I mean, I'm part of a friend group. We've known each other since we were in 7th grade, and there's 4 of us, and one of them she's really taken off. She's very successful, and her thing is that she wants to keep us around her to keep her grounded. And even though, she can travel everywhere, and even though she can, buy all these super expensive things and live in a really fancy house, and not to say that she doesn't want us to be successful and at her level as well, because she does, and she does things to help, to help us out. But she knows that by having her true friends around, it's going to keep her grounded.
Yeah.
And so it really hasn't affected our friendships at all. Honestly, I think it's actually humbled her more, the more successful and the more financially secure she's gotten.
I love that. I think that's what you're supposed to do. Get the jet for everybody.
Right.
Get the yacht and everybody come through. I don't think it should change. My prayer is that it wouldn't, but I feel sad if that is the case. And like I said, I've experienced that, and I just had to take a deep breath and be like, well, I can't afford to buy a table. I'm not in that season. And you just find, cling to the friends that it doesn't matter with. That's my thing.
And I think also it's like, we're talking about a friend who is taken off financially. That's what we're talking about.
And career-wise.
Yeah. Get on their level, get on their vibration, find out what they do, find out what their habits are, cheer for them. There might be a little bit of jealousy because sometimes they're a little bit, I have friends, and I'm like, I hate you and I'm so jealous. Like, what? But like, just catch that vibe, see what they do. And also they're taking off financially, but what ways have you taken off? And what ways do they need to get on your level? Financial is one way. That's the way that we like define success for some reason. And which is, interesting, but like just catch that vibration and that energy that they have, that limitlessness, that prosperity, that abundance, and feel it and be happy for them and download it to yourself. You know what I mean? It can catch on. You know what I mean? Just like be happy for them and cheer for them. And if you can't go on the trip, you can't go on the trip. Be on a jet to your house. You know what I mean? Just praise it and be excited about it and catch that fire and that feeling within yourself, because it doesn't take away from you. Celebrate it. And if they have bougie, bring them on down. I do.
Listen, I'm going to just tell you, my name in college was the $20 traveler, baby, because I would find a way to make one. My line sisters, before I was a Delta, baby, I would find, if somebody was getting married in Miami, you best believe I was busting every shift I could at CPK, and I made a way. Okay, miles became a thing. I got my ticket on miles, and I'd eat at Chick-fil-A. So it's a way. I will find a way to make one, and my friends did not judge me. Okay, and if I needed to get a little meal covered, the people who got your back, they're not going to embarrass you. They just going to add your total in there and slide that card. That's what real sisterhood is. Okay, go on that trip. Ladies, this has just been the highlight of my day. I'm so excited. All of my favorite things are present here. We got the homies in the chat. We got my lovely ladies here. I'm representing for the Capricorns of the world. I gave you bamboos and baby hair. Like, this is what I live for, to talk about sisterhood, to talk about broken friendships. And so before, I want each and every one of us, as we close out, to share with the audience, like, one or two or whatever, however you feel led, like, what's a takeaway that you'd like to share to support, like, for sisterhood and for the broken friendships? So, like, a parting word of advice. I know, Morgan, I just want to give you a shout. I love that you talked about that internal vibration. Like, I'm a vibration person, energy person too. I love to drop that because I think there's something to it. But what that means to those that don't, communicate in that way, it's like, have gratitude in your heart for what someone else, celebrate someone else, and allow that space, meaning harboring all like jealousy or that like stank or just anything that's not anything uplifting, that blocks your own blessings. So I just am so happy that you said that, because that's a strong takeaway. So ladies, what is a takeaway that you can share in terms of like to support sisterhood or to those people that might have experienced or experiencing broken friendships? What do you want? You could have a minute to download, and then I'll close us out.
I'll say, be the kind of friend that you want, and have the difficult conversation. If there's something going on, a lot of times it can just be talking about it. Sometimes we're afraid, like you said, it takes a lot of courage to have the conversation or open it up, because it can be painful sometimes, but just do it, like, hey, we need to talk about it, get it on the table and see if you can reconcile. And if you can, then you can. If you can't, then you can't. And then sometimes, I don't know about the parting ways, but I always feel like in love, like Morgan said earlier, like, you can let someone go in love. It doesn't have to be like that, just like, I wish you the best, like, you're good, I'm good over here, and just try to be the best, cheer your friends on, the ones that you have. You don't need like 1,000 friends. Sometimes you just need one good friend. That's it. It's value that one.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Gabby.
Parting words.
Parting words on friendship and broken friendships and sisterhood. Who's next? Leave the people with a nugget, Fee.
Okay. Well, I feel like we touched on just kind of self-love a little bit. And I do think that it is really important that the people that you keep in your life make you feel good. And I think it's important to really take in take in the positive energy. And if something doesn't feel right, be okay with creating a boundary. So, create that boundary for yourself, because you have to save your mental health. You have to save your emotional health. It'll save you physically. So being okay with creating a boundary in a friendship if you need to, and not to feel bad about it, because it's for you, it's for yourself. So I think that's maybe a little nugget I would leave.
Moment of silence. I love that. Create a boundary if you need to. That's real. Give the permission, because there's people out there struggling with that, I bet, and don't know. I feel like boundaries are viewed as bad, and they're not bad. They actually help you grow, and they can make you closer ultimately. I love that. Reverend Rose, leave the people with a jewel.
The jewel is two things. Number one, if you are experiencing a broken friendship or relationship, know that broken does not mean bad. Broken does not mean that it's bad. Only you alone can decide if the path is to repair it or let it to remain as it is. And either way is okay. And, as a sculptor, sculpting that piece of stone with the chisel and the pieces break off, is that bad? No, pieces have to break off so he can create the image and the art that he or she is looking to create. You have to chisel it sometimes. And sometimes that requires breakage, but breakage doesn't mean it's bad, number one. Number two, You have to be a friend to yourself first. A lot of times we place these expectations on these relationships because we have like this hole or this place in ourselves and we're looking for somebody else to fill it up. But guess what? They can't. That's your job. That is your journey. That's not the job of your friend or your boyfriend, your husband, your whatever. It's not anybody's job but yours. Your friend is on their journey. You are on yours. And the beautiful thing is your journeys get to collide and you get to experience this thing called life together. Friendship is a beautiful thing. If it lasts, that's beautiful. If it breaks off, that's okay because you're chiseling your image. And this is part of life.
I love that, you guys. Broken is not bad. Boundaries are okay. Be a friend. I could say the same thing. My parting words and my prayer, because everything comes with a prayer, is that we as women would continue to embody sisterhood and to promote it. And sisterhood comes in many different forms. But I think the biggest takeaway for me tonight, and because I'm living it, is to really do that work spiritually and on your own heart. Because I think even if you're hurt by a broken friendship, even if you're not sure what the future holds, if you keep that space open and say, okay, Lord, it looks different and it does hurt, but just keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep your heart open and try not to harbor that bitterness and that negativity. That's what my prayer is, that those of us that might be in one, just release the negativity and just allow yourself to be open, because life is short and things, you just never know what tomorrow can bring. It doesn't mean you have to ever reconcile. It doesn't. But just really checking, going inward and saying, okay, what is my heart, looking like? If there's a weight there, if there's unresolved, just let that thing go. For those that pray. If you don't, journal. I just advocate for getting it out. Thank you guys. I've been in tune with my guests, but I do want to say I'm so grateful for everybody joining tonight. This has been so awesome. This is a dream come true. And next month, we're going to have a purpose conversation on marriage. Check it out. So all of these topics are just things that I think, I hope would be inspiring, uplifting, that we can get some healing for those that might, like I said, that might be experiencing. So continue to support. I'm going to post this episode on my YouTube channel for those that might have missed it or caught parts of it. And I just want to say I love you guys and I appreciate you taking this time with me to do something that I feel like I was called to do. So that means the world to me. And guys, have a wonderful night. I'm going to go back and read all the comments. So thank you so much to the audience. And I look forward to doing this every month.
Thanks, Rhea.
Thank you all. I think you guys are amazing. And I'm excited that we did this tonight. So thank you so much.